Seeing as it's 7 p.m., I would like to call the May 9th budget hearing and study session of the Board of Education to order. If you could start with the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The West Irondequoit Central School District acknowledges the indigenous people of this region and that this school district building sits on the homelands of the Onondaga, Seneca of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. It is on these lands that we teach, learn, and live.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. First item on the agenda tonight is the approval of the agenda. Dr. Johnson, are there any changes to the agenda tonight?
We have no changes.
All right, may I have a motion to approve the agenda? Mr. Connor, seconded by Mr. Sullivan. Any questions or comments on that? All those in favor? That is 6-0, Ms. Lustig. Ms. Borneval is not able to join us tonight. Next is public comment. We don't have anyone signed in for public comment, but we do welcome the public at all of our public meetings. Next is the review of the minutes. This is a first read of the April 25th, 2024 minutes. And we will anticipate approving those at our May 30th meeting. Any questions or comments on the minutes, please reach out to Mrs. Lustig. And that brings us to the public hearing on the proposed 24-25 budget. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Metris. And I know that it says that it will be myself and Mr. Brennan making the report, but I'm also going to ask for some help from Ms. Miga and Ms. Kramer as well, because they've also spent a lot of time and added some considerable contributions to this. So welcome to everybody that was able to attend. We'll have a time for questions here at the end, but without prolonging it, we'll jump right into the presentation tonight. So if you're familiar with the school budget, most people know that the planning actually starts really September, October of the year prior, and we really build up to this. And this is a major function of the Board of Education to help to pull this together with our help and coordination and getting you the resources and the information that you need. But again, going back to September, it really starts with you setting the parameters for the budget. You can take a look up here at the objectives that you set for this year's budget, which have been somewhat stable objectives for a number of years. We've made some tweaks. We had quite an extensive conversation this past year around class sizes. But that is one of the primary things, is really balancing our enrollment across grade levels to maintain the optimal class sizes for our children. That's a commitment that we make in the district, and something that Ms. Kramer works very closely with the principals and our teachers to ensure. That's something that we directly derive our staffing numbers from, which informs you at your January workshop. The other thing that you would establish as an anchor was making sure that we follow all special education mandates. That's really a legal piece. We really are obligated to do that. But with planning in that, and that was something that was a hurdle for us near the, after January, kind of the middle of the planning process, was some of the numbers that came in from some of the placements around special education, which were things that were unexpected. I know we had a deep conversation here at the board table about that. The alignment of the curriculum instruction to our strategic plans, so we've done a lot of work around that, and that's been an investment by the district, not only in capital and money, but also in human capital as far as their time. So our staff have been amazing at bringing that to life and helping to restore elements of the budget that have been reduced in the past. And were included in the federal stimulus fund. So that was a major part of planning for this year. If you remember last year, we set aside a little over $700,000, right, Mr. Brenner, $750,000 with one-time expenditures to allow us the room to consider those 23 federal stimulus funded positions that we had acquired to support learning loss. and some of the challenges for our students. And again, I think the board did a fabulous job of this year, working through that with the support of our administration and staff. And then finally, maintaining a sustainable 5-year financial plan while staying within the tax levy cap. And for you folks, you're always looking out to what you refer to as that fiscal cliff and making sure that we continue to push that out with our long-range planning. Another element that was kind of new this year that we really applied district-wide, especially at our district level meetings, but at many of our building level meetings as well, is this saying of, and how are all the children? So over the summer, we did some professional learning with the Warner School of Education, and they shared with us a Maasai proverb of just how their warriors would come back to the village, and that was the first thing that they would ask when they came back to the village. And how are all the children? And that's important to us. We really anchored ourselves to that throughout the year because that's our business. We're here to care for our children. And so that was an essential question in going through this budget planning process. So you can see here some of the fabulous things that our students were able to accomplish this year thanks to the planning of you folks and the resources. So this is pretty customary for us. We've done this for a number of years. And this really is a slide. It surrounds our district snapshot, and it is it's intended to really quantify the quality of the district. So schools are an investment of the community, investment in just that, the community, but also obviously in our children, which are the future of our community. And you can see here by the numbers that West Irondequoit is an extremely high-performing district. And it's something that we know people move here for. We're one of the hottest markets nationally because of that. And it's just an intense point of pride. So with that comes tremendous responsibility to continue to sustain that. And you can see our graduation rates, despite navigating COVID, have remained high thanks to the support of our staff, the strategic planning and leadership of our administrators, coordinating those supports we talked about, the number of advanced placement courses that our students are taking, the Regents diplomas. One thing that we did put in here, the 88%, I think that's a huge point of pride when you look across the region and you look at the complexity of our course catalog, not only AP courses, which have traditionally been a gold standard of schools and for students going through, and that's a mark of rigorous coursework, but we have dual enrollment courses, mostly with MCC, that our students can access and earn college credit. And many of them will graduate with at least a semester or more accomplished before they hit college. And we talk about music, we talk about DECA, our business program. So we really have a successful district here. And again, this is a driver of our budget to help to maintain that. So at this point, I'm going to enlist Mr. Brennan, because I know he loves the numbers. He's been a huge part of this. So Mr. Brennan, can you tell us a little bit more about the revenues?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Thank you to the board for our opportunity to present on this year's budget. We're really proud about this. But yeah, our revenue sources, as this pie chart shows, really comes from two major sources, and that's what the next couple slides are going to talk about. It is our support from our local taxpayers in the form of our local tax levy, but also state aid as well. And those two, as state aid has increased, and we've got a slide in a couple slides coming up showing how state aid has increased markedly over the last few years. Those two slices, the blue slice for the state aid and the green slice for state aid, are pretty much even. Also noteworthy is just some other funding sources. Specifically, we do get a share of Monroe County sales tax that comes in at just under $4 million. Then just a variety of other sources also comes at around $4 million. So specifically about that largest slice, support of our community, the tax levy cap. And so as Dr. Johnson indicated on that last bullet of our budget objectives, maintaining within the tax levy cap was a goal we achieved once again with this budget. And we know from year to year, the tax levy cap parameters change, and so that value changes periodically. But really, in this district, the most significant impact is inflation. And inflation is capped within the formula 2%, so we're not quite able to realize all of the inflation that the challenges we face, but still we are able to increase our revenues through the tax levy by about $974,000. Our percent in terms of that tax levy percentage is 2.24%. And as a result, we are what's considered tax cap compliant, which means that in order to pass our budget, we would need 50% of our voters to affirm that through a yes vote. The parameters change from year to year, and you can kind of see how those values can have impacts as well. But you can see that this year, that 2.24% is really right on par with our 13-year average, just over 2%. Really, every year has its story. This year's story is really tied to the fact that the inflation rate's above 2%, and we have some slight variations within our pilots and so on. But again, we've remained consistent, and that's been to remain true to our budget objectives. Second largest piece of that pie chart is state aid, and the most significant portion of that is foundation aid. There's been a lot of work done by people at this table, by groups around the state, in terms of seeking to support districts like ourselves in terms of receiving the full amount of foundation aid that was promised to us when the formula was created in 2007, 2008. So you can see, just looking back a few years, in 2021, we were only getting about 62% of that formula amount. And so some of that advocacy work began to be paid off. And you can see the markedly increases in terms of the percentages from 62 to 69%, 86%, all the way up to last year where we achieved this fully funded status based on the formula, just over $32 million in terms of foundation aid. So what happens moving forward? So we kind of saw a bit of that in the fall. We had a fall estimate that was higher than actually what the governor's budget. And so there's still some debate in terms of how that formula is utilized, in terms of specifically how to realize inflation. Most people believe it's the current inflation rate in the governor's budget. She took a multi-year average, which dropped it, which resulted in an amount of foundation aid that's about $450,000 less than we anticipated. Through the legislative budget, the adopted budget restored about half of that, which was helpful in terms of closing the remaining budget gap. So there's our foundation aid formula. There's a study going on within the state budget to look at what does the foundation aid look like moving forward. So we don't know, but at least we know where we are for this year in terms of our 24-25 budget.
I'm going to turn over to Ms. Kramer to talk a little bit about personnel.
So included in this year's budget, we have some additions to personnel that are directly connected to enrollment, as well as absorbing some of the stimulus positions that have been added over the course of the last three years through our stimulus fund grants. And you'll also see a connection to added personnel connected to some analysis that we've had in the past. So we did our buildings and ground maintenance group analysis, we had our special education analysis, and definitely also connected to our strategic plan. So therefore, recommended in our budget for next school year, it is 2 FTEs tied to enrollment, K-12, 16 FTEs of the stimulus positions being carried over into this budget, 3 FTEs to support our special education continuum, and Ms. Migo will share a little more about that later. 1 full-time nurse to be added to the district, and then connected to our technology analysis, and full-time network technician, and then connected to our analysis for building and grounds was a laborer and a grounds worker, and then the addition, after assessing our administrative team's needs, a full-time assistant principal at Rogers.
We'll get into the stimulus-funded positions, and because a lot of this work went through the Office of Instruction, and Chrissy worked very closely with our principals and our staff to assess and evaluate the investments we made over the last 3 years. Chrissy's going to talk a little bit about where we landed.
Yeah. So this slide just outlines those positions and FTEs that we are moving forward into our regular budget from the stimulus-funded positions. You'll see an emphasis certainly on our special education programs. to continue some of the expansion of the continuum we've already put in place, but also continue to support the needs that we have seen from our students over the past few years. So that includes ICT positions, our 2 811 classroom teacher positions that we added at both the K3 and 4-6 level at Colebrook and Iroquois. It also includes our SES staff, which has been kind of different variations of behavioral specialist positions, which we will continue to utilize to support student behaviors, but really respond to the specific needs of our students and how, which buildings that those are placed at, as well as how they will support students. Continuing with an ENL teacher who has helped to provide the appropriate state mandated services to our ENL students. A teacher to address learning loss, which is in the form of math intervention at the 7-12 level. We're going to continue with our additional social worker at the high school, which will help us to respond to some not only student supports, but also the increased family supports and communication that we've seen. Our youth assistants will carry over into our regular budget, as well as our tutor teacher position at Pine Grove, which has helped us to really build and make our tutoring program even more robust, which was at the TLC and now it's at Pine Grove and the TLC. And so with that, if we go to the next slide, in addition to those stimulus positions, we have also decided to add 3 K-6 elementary special education positions, and these are specifically to help us address the needs that emerged through our student services analysis a couple years ago, where part of that analysis really pointed out the need to expand our continuum of services and programs, particularly at the K-6 and even more particularly at the K-3 level, where we have 6 buildings and often 1 ICT per grade level. And so what we have done over the past couple years is we have added our 811 classrooms at Colebrook and Iroquois. Which 811 was a classroom we had quite a while ago at the early elementary level, but this has allowed for that continuum to now expand and be in place across K through 6. And then for the 24-25 school year, the 3 FTEs that we support that we'll add at the elementary level are going to help us, as shared with you at the budget workshop, are going to help us to create North and South End ICTs starting at the K level, and then over the course of about 5 years to help that expansion of every year having a K ICT where you have a North and a South End ICT. So obviously that K cohort will move to 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd, so that eventually by 28-29 you'll have full K through 3 North and South End ICTs, and then that's when grade 4 will have North and South End ICTs. It's important to note that that doesn't mean at Rogers and Iroquois we might in the next 5 years have 2 ICTs, one at Rogers and one at Iroquois, because if our numbers require us to do so, we will have that. We'll always stay in compliance. But this would help us to build that program so that that happens regardless, so that students can, at the K-3 level, if not be at their home building, at least be at a building that feeds to their home 4-6 building. And so that helps our students to stay within their neighborhoods with the students and the other children and families that they're familiar with. And that was an important thing that came out of that analysis. So we're really excited to do that.
And I would just piggyback off from that, and the analysis was something that really affirmed what was pointed out, what was really called out through our strategic planning process. So we had a lot of members here at the table that were part of that steering committee. We also had some folks in the audience that were part of that. And there was this call to action around our neighborhood schools and the fact that they're a gem of the district, something that is beloved, but for some families, there are consequences if they have students with disabilities or special needs, and so this is one of those critical steps that was really derived from that strategic plan to help to balance that and make it more equitable. So, great work. Move back to Mr. Brennan for a summary of the expenditures.
Yeah, so, so just to kind of piggyback on the personnel side, since that's what Chrissy and Michelle just presented on. So the personnel budget's gonna be just about $63,664,000. So that represents our contractual obligations, but also the personnel increases that Michelle and Chrissy just took us through. On the non-personnel side, we're increasing by about 10% to $30 million. That's really represented, that increase is represented by really three things. One, just energy costs continue to go up in excess of inflation. Also, our transportation costs have gone up quite a bit, both from our contractual costs through an RFP we did last year, and then also due to the driver shortage, we continue to use a variety of carriers to make sure we're meeting the transportation needs of our students and families. And finally, within the non-personnel budget, as Dr. Johnson alluded to earlier, around the special ed costs, as the budget evolved, there was an increase in terms of our costs tied to out-of-district placements, both mostly at BOCES, but also some of our other out-of-district partners within the community too. Overall, the total budget is $93,783,857. That's a 5.7% increase over the current year's budget. One chart that we do kind of lean back on, it just kind of talks about our efficiency of our district. The year changes, but we continue to remain at the lower end of this chart, and this is a representation of efficiency in terms of cost per pupil. And so we still remain that based on current data. The data always lags a couple of years because it has to be released by New York State. But this chart does get updated every year. And we still remain as one of the more efficient districts within Monroe County. So we like to point that out, especially to our community who pay a large amount for us in terms of revenue through the levy. Another aspect that is included within our budgets as well is this annual capital outlay exclusion project. Sometimes you hear us call it the 100K project. That's because New York State caps the aidable portion of that project at $100,000. We're always hopeful that they're going to expand that value because it makes it more and more difficult each year to do meaningful projects. But we are still able to do so, and we typically focus on safety and/or security, tied to also sometimes asset preservation. This is really two of those in terms of the safety portion and also preserving our assets. Our most senior elementary building, Seneca Elementary School, has a sprinkler head system in the attic, and those sprinkler heads are aging out, and so in order to maintain that system, our recommendation within this budget is to replace those sprinkler heads, and the expense we anticipate be within that $100,000 able cap. If monies remain, we'll address some other interior renovations within that building to maximize the aid that's available to us within these types of projects. Just a quick summary of our budget overall. That top number on the right, that $93,783,857, that is our budget. That's the amount that will appear on the ballot that our voters have an opportunity to vote yes or no on. And because we are tax cap compliant, that number at the bottom, we would require 50% of our voters to say yes for the budget to pass. The breakdown in terms of state aid and taxes were covered earlier. We still use some savings, but we've been very judicious about it in recent years, and there's a nominal increase of about $230,000 in terms of projected use of savings. As a result of the townwide reassessment a year ago, our tax rate decreased quite a bit in the previous year, 23-24, so we're looking at about a 47 cents per thousand increase to 21.28 as our tax rate within the West Irondequoit School District.
All right. An additional proposition, or Proposition 1 on this year's, for this year's vote, is going to be introducing an annual maintenance capital project. So this was an idea that was brought forth. Mr. Brennan has done some research around the area. A request from the board when I first started was to continue our capital planning, but to look for ways, both in the short term and in the long term, where we could invest more money closer to our classrooms and impact instruction more directly. So this is one of those ideas that we've researched, that we're bringing forth, and what this will entail is annually we will present a maintenance project of anywhere from $1.5 to $2 million. This year is $1,620,000, and this will be at no impact to your taxes because we'll utilize a little over $300,000 from our reserves, and this is going to accomplish just that, maintenance on our buildings. So this one is really prioritizing Brookview. So for many of us in the community, our elementary schools may feel like they're newer, but their age is actually over 20 years old now. And so some of these things are at their end of life. And one of those items, a pretty significant item, is the roof. And we've done some ongoing repair work to that roof, which has been building over time. And at this point now, is at the point where it needs to be replaced. So while we're doing that, we're not only going to replace the roof, but the heating and cooling systems like the HVAC, the boiler, and domestic water heater. And again, what that's going to do is allow us, when we get to the next major project, to have these maintenance items taken care of so that we can focus the majority of our attention on items such as renovations to our classrooms, renovations to things like our libraries that we're seeing, athletic fields, things like that. So that's going to be something that you'll see on the ballot this year. Mr. Brennan, anything to add to that?
No, I think that was perfect.
Also, on this year's ballot will be vacant seats for the Board of Education. So for next year, we have 3 vacant seats. We have 4 candidates running. We have Gary Adams, Kevin Shuffle, Kate Copeland, and Tamara Wall. And if folks want to get a sneak peek at those candidates, obviously there's information in the budget quote that was just received at your homes. There's also information on our website that you can access. And there is a special candidates night that's going to be hosted by the WIC PTSA at 6:30 p.m. In the IHS small cafeteria. So if you look at these slides, there's also a QR code that will take you to all that information on our website. And again, as you can see there, the vote is May 21st at our customary location, the St. Paul Boulevard Fire Department. So, Mr. Brennan, would you like to summarize everything for us?
Sure, again, thanks, Dr. Johnson. The total budget is $93,783,857. That represents a 5.74% budget increase. However, it remains within our tax levy cap of 2.24%. We're projecting the tax rate for next year to be about $21.28 per 1,000 assessed value. As Dr. Johnson took us through, in addition to voting on the budget itself, there's also an opportunity for voters to consider this Proposition 1, which is a maintenance capital project at Brookview Elementary School of $1.62 million. And finally, there's the Board of Education election for 3 seats.
The one thing that I would add to that that's not on the slide, folks that were paying attention when their budget quote came out, there was an error on that. So in processing the information as it came in a little bit late, no excuses. We missed, and we put that estimated tax rate on there, which is $21.28 per $1,000 of assessed value, where we should have put the increase. So you will be receiving a postcard home in the mail. The increase, budget to budget, for your tax rate is actually 47 cents per thousand. So I just want to make sure that we point that out as well. And I'll reiterate that during my presentation here later tonight as well. So again, there's the direct link to the budget resources on our webpage. I want to thank all the work that's went into this, obviously from the folks here at the table, Most importantly, the Board of Education and your attention from beginning to end, everything that you've invested in that, the great questions that you have asked, the information that you've requested along the way. Thank you to our administrators at the table. And again, there's so many people that stand behind informing this budget, such as our administrators, our teachers, our community, and even our students, and I just want to thank them as well. Our new website, Mr. DiVeronica and Ms. Rivasfar has worked very hard on that, and hopefully that you'll find that to be just well laid out and easily accessible for you. So with that, we'll open it up. This is a budget hearing for the community. If there's any questions in the room or any comments, now is your time. Okay.
Now, just so, I know we talked about the budget last time, and thank you. I just want, and you did a very good job, Dr. Johnson, in explaining it, of a new philosophy with these propositions that we're looking at for us.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
this is something that, working, James' leadership at the facilities committee, really looking at these propositions as we built these buildings 20 years ago, as they came on to the, timelines, because they weren't all built at once, they were built over about 3 years, that this is work that needs to be done. Past boards had always said when we did that $50 million capital project that really did these is that we made the promise that we would make sure that we kept up the infrastructure. So this is just a new thing that, like you said, we're going to be seeing more of the smaller capital projects, kind of like on a yearly basis, to really keep up those facilities which are important that house our instructional spaces, right? And will allow us, when we do, I'll say, a bigger capital project, like you said, to focus that into the classroom, to our students, to our staff, where we don't have to worry about, well, we also got to do, the roof at
Right.
Brookview. You know what I mean?
Right.
So again, I think it's a great concept. I'm glad it's finally come to fruition, and we're working down that road now. I think it's just important that, it's not, well, you'll be seeing capital projects like on a yearly basis, small ones. So,
Yep.
but thank you for that and the time put in that. And I think it was very well explained and to the community this year and just going forward. So,
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, I mean, you stated that perfectly. If you think about your home, we're dealing with buildings here, but in your home, you wouldn't want your roof, your furnace, your hot water heater, your driveway. You wouldn't want all those things to have to be replaced all at once. And so we are trying to stagger that to make sure that we're staying on top of it for our children and our community, and also not overburdening ourselves at one single point. So
yeah,
thank you.
It's important that we plan these, because James helped me. I think if this passes in May, our architects will put the package together, they'll send it to state ed, but it's another year out, right?
Based on current SED approval times, it's about a year. So we'd really be looking at the summer of 2025 before any work would start on it.
And it's important that we're preemptive on this, because if you have to try to do a roof replacement during school, it's almost impossible.
Right.
So,
Right.
I just applaud the leadership of the superintendent's office and the cabinet to bring this to us. So, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions from the board or the audience? I just again want to say thank you to Dr. Johnson and all of the assistants for all the work that has gone into this budget. I know it's a year-round process, but this is the Super Bowl time, right? And with that, we will close the public hearing. Next on the agenda is the report of the superintendent, Dr. Johnson.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Metris. So I'll start out tonight, and we have a great picture of some of our unified basketball players. Certainly, it's just a beloved program that started here in the district. We've had our classes move downward now, so not only do we have this program at IHS now, we also have a program at Dake, where you'll see some of our athletes here. And I just want to give a shout out to Mr. Lansing, Ms. Maroney, and Ms. Seeley for all the work that they put into this and just, you know, the excitement that they generate in these kids are really fun to watch. So with that, we'll jump into the report again. I mentioned this earlier, and how are all the children? I would say that the children are well. If you look around the district, I first want to point out the upper left-hand corner are some of the students on their 8th grade DC trip. So that's a lot of work. We have families and students that are so appreciative that that's back again in full force. But that doesn't just happen. It takes a lot of hard work planning and coordinating of not only the logistics, but the finances. So I want to just send a shout out to Dr. Cohen, Ms. Freezy, and Ms. Aqua, one of our APs who was able to join that trip. They did an excellent job, and the students reported back that they had a fabulous time. So in the lower left-hand corner there, I had the pleasure of joining Mr. Sullivan, and we were able to celebrate the Hummer Nature Center and Karen Mazzola for this year's Act for Education Community Champion. And so this was something that honestly they've earned over time. It is such a high-functioning, special asset to the community and supplement to our instructional programs. But what made it extra special this year was everything that they did for the eclipse. So they added that to all of the lessons with our classes. All of the kids received that. They received the classes, how to safely watch the eclipse and what it was about. Then they had this massive, highly successful Eclipse Fest where the community got to come together and watch that. And there was some really great food vendors there too. So, and a Gaga ball pit. Gaga ball? Gaga pit? It's foreign to me. I know my son loves it. Upper right-hand corner, just want to say congratulations to our AHS Jazz Ensemble. So, and thank you for the board for supporting that trip. This was for the Heritage Music Fest in New York City. They were able to go there, earn 3rd place. And they were silver medalists, and you can see their celebratory picture there. This week is Staff Appreciation Week. If you walk into any building across the district, thanks to our PTSA, they are well sugared, well fed, and in many places well caffeinated as well. So you folks have really done a great job celebrating our staff once again. And they certainly earned that. So I just want to say thank you to them, not only this week, but you know, every week, every day. This work only happens because of the amazing staff that we have. And you can see that picture there at Rogers. This was, I thought, a really special touch by Mr. DiMartino, and Miss Conti was involved. They brought one of their ensembles together to sing for the school and for the staff that day. Lower right-hand corner is the next level signing, and kudos to Ms. Schoen, our athletic director and director of health and physical education. This came from really some feedback from athletes and parents, families a few years ago. So we do these high-level signings for Division I athletes, and this was a special signing day for the student athletes that are signing at a Division II or Division III college as well. And I know that they also do some other work for students with the, who are going directly into careers or some other, like music or the arts and some different things like that. And that was during another week, but this one here was for those Division II and Division III signees. So congratulations to them and their families. So some updates across the district. I'm not going to steal Miss Miga's thunder. This is a picture of Miss Elliott at the Youth Voices concert, Lilac Conference, that she'll talk about a little bit later. It was just, Miss Miga, utterly fabulous. Just, I'll leave it at that. Our students shine thanks to you, thanks to Miss Crystal and the amazing teachers working with them. But we talked about the error. So you're aware that that was made. For people who have been watching the budget over time, I'm sure it stood out like a sore thumb that was an error. Really, these are all for you, so I don't need to count them out. But we want to make sure that we corrected that, because obviously, the way that it's worded, you would be paying $4,000 or $5,000 more a year in school taxes, and that is not the case. It's actually 47 cents per $1,000 of assessed value, so you can read through that. This will go home to families, I think next week, so those are being sent to the printer, and you can look forward to that. But there's a corrected copy of the quote available on our website, and I think you folks have a copy of that at the table. I had a really great student summit at Dake, so this was something that I've been doing all year. For the board members that have been here, you probably remember that when I first came on board, I took over. There was like a superintendent's advisory committee. That was really a really great group of students, a great connection. We were able to work with Miss Crystal and create the land acknowledgement through them. Then COVID hit. It was really hard to get people together. So last year I went on kind of a tour of the district, meeting with clubs and different activities, and that was really fun to connect with students in that way. This year I've gone to buildings, and very similar to our student reps. I just sit down and have a conversation with the kids, and we talk about what they think is going really well, and some of the ideas that they have moving forward. So I'll tell you, I left my notes in my office, but I have 2 pages from Dake, a lot of things that they really celebrated. I mean, the staff, they just said that they feel that that building is overwhelmingly supportive. They love their teachers, they love everything about it. They really love what we're doing with the facilities over there. They talked about the bright colors, the murals, and just how nice that is to come to school. They talked about their coursework and how it's been fun for them to get into some more challenging coursework and some things that are better aligned to some of their interests. They talked about computers. Not all the things that we talked about regarding computers was positive, but we're continuing to work on that. I know that we've done some extensive testing of the Wi-Fi's and different things across the district, and that continues to be fortified. So I know we're making strides there. And they were appreciative of some of the social emotional work that we're doing. They talked about how that was helping them to connect with one another and helping them to work through some of the issues that they had with some of their peers, and helping them to form their own identity. So it's a great conversation. Going to talk about the Lilac Fest later on today. I also want to just recognize we had one of our parents complete the Parent Teacher Leader Institute. So some folks, we've had a number of people over the years go through that here in Rochester. It's a really comprehensive, really deep dive into what it means to advocate for public schools, to understand that, how to really kind of shape your voice around that and educate yourself. And I know it's a tremendous amount of work, so I just want to say congratulations to Ms. Wall. Sorry I wasn't able to make the graduation. I had an event for my son out of town, and so I had to back out, and then it was canceled because of rain, and I felt guilty. I backed out. I could just show up, so I hope it went very well. And thank you for the investment in our schools and community, and most importantly our students. A couple of capital planning updates. We got the chance to sit down with Assemblywoman Clark, myself and Mr. Brennan, talking about funding. She had shared just an opportunity around some kind of bullet aid that she has accessible through her office, and how she may be able to support us with some of our plans moving forward around pre-K. So we're going to continue that work, and there's no guarantees with that, but we're going to pursue that with her, and that can potentially help us to support us financially in renovating those classrooms. And then this summer, something to look forward to for our staff and around the district, we're going to do some pretty significant focus groups around capital planning. So again, back to what we kind of talked about, but gathering information from our people so that that could be used by our architects and engineers, the CPL, to kind of round out our master planning and our long-range plans. So I just want to give a preview that that's going to happen. So with that, certainly feel any comments or questions. This is a great picture of our new teachers and mentors. We just got to celebrate their completion of the year. So congratulations to them, and thanks to the TLC for the work that they do to coordinate that.
Any questions for Dr. Johnson? All right, thank you, sir, for the report, as always. That brings us to business. Dr. Johnson?
On my agenda, Mr. Brennan, any comments?
No comments, no updates, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
He's talked enough, he's talked enough. Well, then, in that case, that brings us to instruction, Dr. Johnson.
Well, that gives me, Ms. Miga even more time. Ms.
Sure.
Miga,
Thank you.
we'll turn it over to you.
All right, so happy to share some, I think, exciting updates from the Office of Instruction. First, last time I had mentioned to you that I had attended recently Learning in the Brain Conference, which is, again, really put on with presenters that are focused on brain research, neuroscience, and really scientists, researchers. And so I just wanted to share a little bit more about I included some of the presentation titles from the different pieces that I saw along with our other staff that attended, as well as some of the presenters. It just really was such a fantastic experience, and it was myself, Brenna Farrell from Briarwood Colebrook, and then two of our teachers, Jamie Giuliano and Lindsay Leonards. Jamie is an intervention teacher at Brookview, and Lindsay is a 4th grade teacher at Rogers. And just the topics that were addressed and just the ideas, but also the research behind the ideas that were presented really spoke to this idea. I mean, the conference was centered around future-ready brains and really how to help students, and it addressed some of those really important topics right now for students, like empowerment. A lot addressed attention and engagement, which is something that we hear often as an area that our teachers want to learn more about. So you can see some of those really powerful titles as well as the powerful people who we were able to hear from. The second presenter listed, Scott Barry Kaufman, he's actually was recently named in the top 1% of all researchers in the world, which was fascinating to me. And just to be able to hear different perspectives and ideas from this amazing group was really powerful. So the plan, though, is to take this information and first turnkey it to our leadership team this summer through our curriculum and instruction workshop, and then further turnkey that to our staff, so that even though there was just 4 of us who attended, hopefully the entire district staff can get some of the great nuggets that we were able to get. And the teachers are actually that attended are going to help to turnkey that to our leadership staff. So again, just finding another way to empower them and bring them to the forefront of this work as well. So just excited to share that. As Dr. Johnson mentioned, a week ago today, we held, it was our first annual Lilac Conference. However, the Launching Youth Leaders Action Conference is something that was started at Nazareth University, has been spearheaded by one of our good friends and community members here in the district, Dr. Meg Callahan-Steckley, who has been looking to find ways to involve more community members and just expand the conference that has typically gone on where college students, or university I should say, students, and some high school students have completed really social justice projects. And so we were able to partner with Nazareth as well as East Rochester School District to host students and then their families and some of our district community members as well West Irondequoit was very well represented, the largest student group there. We had just under 75 students from first through, we had through 8th grade students who presented, and the presentations are all youth-led, so every presentation that was given was led by the students. And I included in your admin content just the program from the evening, just so you can get a sense of all of the different presentations that were given, the students who were there, as well as the amazing teachers who took the time that night to be there and help their students present. But it was a great success, and we had originally planned for we thought, oh, if we could get like 150 people total, that'd be great. It ended up being an event for 400 people, and so, which just speaks to the great work that our teachers are engaging our students in, and then of course the support of their families and the community members who wanted to attend. So it's something we are very hopeful to continue to partner with both NAS and East Rochester on, along with Dr. Javon Hunter, who has been, such an integral part to our work in district. And, I know some of my partners who are involved are like, yep, we're gonna keep expanding, but then Nazareth has gotta get a bigger campus because we were pretty full just at that time. So we will find a way so that we can get as many of our students as well as East Rochester students there as well. So the idea is to expand so that we have even more of our students to attend. So thank you to all who were involved because it was pretty magical. I also wanted to share some great news. You may or may not remember, because it feels like a while ago now, I had shared at one point that we were going to apply for the PLAN pilot program. So this is a application that was sent out by New York State Department of Education, and it is focused on a program where to explore alternative tracks to graduation and alternative assessments beyond the Regents exam. And so something to note, this language has kind of changed a little bit since its inception. It's not to replace Regents exams. Right now it is, those are, I haven't seen anything that shows us that those are, on the track to be dissolved. Still, we're gonna have Regents exams, but this is something that would help to grow this idea of project-based learning and assessment. And so Irondequoit High School has been approved as a pilot school for Global 1. And so what that will entail is over the next year, so starting this summer and then beginning of next year, the team and led by Kim Crystal, who helped us to focus on this application, will receive professional development and support from New York State Department of Education and obviously internally to create an alternative assessment that is more project-based versus, the typical more Regents-like assessments that we often see at the high school level. So I think it's a really great opportunity for us as a district to understand where, the state is thinking about taking us over the next honestly 5 to 10 years as far as assessments, and I think us getting in early and to be able to be partners with them on that is only going to help our students to better understand the expectations as we move forward. So thanks to Kim Crystal as well as Principal Elisa McLaughlin for supporting this work and being willing to take it on. So with that, is there any questions or comments?
Just the pilot program, thanks for keeping us updated on that. So can you just help me understand, so will it just be like, will it be all of Global 1 will do this, or will there still be some, and I can't remember the exact track, so that's what I'm asking you.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be some students that would still take, I'll say Global 1, that would take a Regents at the end, and then if you do this Global 1 pilot program, you still can get a Regents diploma at the end. It counts as the Regents credit, right? And I'm just...
It doesn't replace any Regents. So this is, so again, that's something that at the beginning, when this was first, it was a year or so ago, that was one of the ideas. It would be like a waiver almost for some Regents assessments. This does not replace any Regents assessments.
So-
This is to build and conceptualize what a project-based learning and then also assessment would look like.
So so the question is will all our Global 1 classes be that?
Yeah, the idea is I mean, it's so new still, so we have to work through some of those details and understand fully from New York State what that would look like. So it is a pilot, so it may not be all, but the idea would be to work towards that. But I honestly, we just found out like yesterday we were even accepted, so I don't have all the details quite worked out yet. But it's not a replacement of any.
So
Regents
if they
exams.
take it,
Mhm.
and they succeed, I'm sure there'll be standards that they will say are successful in, okay?
Mhm.
Whatever that,
Yeah.
working with New York State is that, rubric is for success on a project. Then they still have to take the Regents exam
Mhm.
to get credit.
Yes.
I think that's important that we make sure that.
Yes.
And then the reason I asked was it all classes, because being pilot, like, are we,
Yeah.
like,
It's a good
one or
question.
two classes that people understand it and then look like what it's gonna look like because they're helping us build it, or is it, and I don't know how many global, I'm gonna guess maybe 8 or 9 Global 1 classes, I'm thinking one every period probably. I don't know how many we have, we guys probably help me, but, or is it gonna be like all 7 or 8? That was my question. So I'll wait for more information. I know you'll keep us updated. Those are some of the quick questions that came to my mind hearing about it. It's exciting. It seems like the state is, in multiple subjects, is looking
Oh, yeah.
at alternative pathways. I've heard that for many years, which is good for our students, because we know, as Chrissy has presented to us, Dr. Johnson's given us information to read. Each student has like a different path, right? Like, some are visual, some are very book, so it's exciting.
That's been a frequently mentioned point from Regent Hale as well as he's come on board, so
Yeah.
he's definitely been an advocate for that, and will definitely keep us informed as that moves forward as well.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Chris.
Mhm.
Any other questions for Ms. Amita? Thank you. We're going to keep it with instruction for pre-K update. Dr. Johnson.
We'll turn it right back to Ms. Miga, so we're happy to provide an update on UPK.
Yeah, and I'm going to welcome Kelly Santor, Director of Data Assessment and Intervention, back to the board table, and she is going to review just our work that we've done and the programs we've had for this school year, and then a look ahead to next and beyond.
Hi, everybody. So I'm going to review our UPK as of to date, and then thinking ahead to next year and in future years. So I had the pleasure as part of my role to oversee some of our CBO sites that we have. So we have 3 programs this year. 2 are at our at daycares. So one is right at Sunshine Daycare. We have one at Forever Friends. It's actually 2 classrooms that are hybrid. So there's some of our UPK students in there mixed in with other families that are paying for that UPK program. And then this is the first year that we have our own in-house classroom right here at Listwood. So there are 18 students in each class, so we have a total of 54 UPK students through West Irondequoit. Each classroom has 1 teacher and 1 teacher assistant. That's one of the classes over at Forever Friends down there in the corner. So because we are having our own in-house UPK classroom this year, we brought that teacher in along with our CBO teachers for the summer and planned some professional development with them around curriculum. So we looked at ELA curriculum, math curriculum. We also adopted a common social emotional learning curriculum to be used at all 3 sites. We also had our speech teacher along with our OT and PT come and provide some training for our UPK teachers. And then the second day, they were able to collaborate with each other on best practices for early learning. They collaborated on what their teacher schedules could look like, so they're getting similar experiences no matter what site that they're at, and around assessment practices, because we need to screen all of our UPK kids, and then we also assess them at the beginning of the year and the end of the year to see what progress they make. And we also have to report that progress back to the state. So every month, we had a different topic that all of the teachers will come here on site to learn about how we can best support our 4-year-olds. So one month was around our ELA curriculum, or one month was around SEL, and that last month and this month were around how to prepare them for kindergarten. So we are working on those types of things. And this is our site over at Sunshine. Very cute. They're working on, they're growing plants in class, so each station was working on different plants that they were growing. So the state came out with an expansion grant that we could apply for. So Christy and I worked on this application together. So right now, West Irondequoit gets an allotment from the state of $6,604 per student. So that's what we take on for those 18 students, and then we also give that to the CBOs. With this application, that would expand how much money we get per student up to $10,000. So that would give us more money along with our CBOs. We haven't heard back yet. I know Chrissy and I keep reaching out to the state and poking them a little bit, but they haven't told us. So every year, the UPK is part of a lottery, and families have to submit their name saying that we're interested in being a part of UPK. And every year we've had about 100 families apply. So if we get this expansion grant, we would increase about 36 to 54 students, so almost being able to take all of the families that were interested in becoming a part of UPK.
And that's if we would be able to partner with additional CBOs
Right.
as well, so that's part of it as well.
So we could potentially open up another class at Forever Friends or Sunshine, or reach out to the 3 others that are in our area. Let's see, so as it stands for this coming school year, we have 36 slots. We had 105 families enter for the lottery. So we have 18 students that will be attending Briarwood School, and then 18 students that will be at Sunshine. We have, again, that added potential of opening up another classroom at Sunshine. So right now we're looking, we're kind of waiting for OFCS approval to come into the facility and look around and say this is approved to open up another classroom. So that would give us another 18 students that could go into that classroom. If we get that expansion grant, we could also open up an additional classroom at Forever Friends, and again, potentially those other classrooms as well. So we're growing and expanding, which is great for our families. So long-range planning, as you all know, the district purchased Pine Grove, so that will be our long-range planning of opening up 3 in-house classrooms at Pine Grove, and then we would still maintain those additional CBOs with any people that would like to partner with us with daycares. All right, and that is all I have. What questions do you have about UPK?
The expansion grant, is that a one-time application and then it goes for every year, or do you have to
You do
reapply
have to
for that every year?
reapply, but we've heard the reapplication process is really easy.
Thanks, Kelly, for the update. Just the grant that we applied for, I hope the state lets us know sooner than later, because obviously, if they let us know in August, it's gonna be awful hard to
Yes.
call
Yes.
people and say, by the way, hey, in 3 weeks, we're gonna, so,
Yeah.
I don't know if we have any contacts like Matt through our legislative committee in Monroe County said, that's kind of important, that the longer lead time they give us. I mean, Chrissy would have to onboard them with the great curriculum they did last summer. We have to bring those people up to speed and stuff, so I just hope that, thanks for checking, and I hope that maybe one day you get a big surprise.
They're actually
How's that
ignoring us
sound?
now.
And I will say the Office of Early Learning specifically is very responsive.
Yes.
They are also waiting, I was told they're waiting for across the street, I guess they had, like specifically but they would let us know as soon as they
I
can.
know our CBOs are eager to hear too, because we did inform them that we were applying for this grant,
Yeah.
because it does give them more money too, to be
Yeah.
able to support their
Just an
program.
approval. Yeah.
Well, thanks for looking into it.
There's a lot across the street fingerprinting
Yeah.
in
That's
that
right.
particular neighborhood. Do we know, have any sort of ballpark timeline on that OCFS approval at Sunshine?
I mean, I know we checked recently,
I know
within the
Janine
last
has been
week.
calling too. Actually, Janine over at Sunshine, she needs them to actually come to there anyways to do her annual approval to continue to keep that place open, and she's been calling them and making sure they come to make sure she can stay open in general. So I'm hoping when they come to do that, they'll do both duties.
Yeah, it's a factor right now, the staffing level at OCFS to get a person right now. The traditional person she works with as an inspector no longer works there, so now it's working with someone in management around that instead.
State bureaucracy.
More
at its
finger
best.
pointing.
Any other questions for Mrs. Megan and Ms. Santora? Well, thank you as
Yeah, thank you.
always. I was at Listwood today for a walkthrough and I had the opportunity to pop into our pre-K classroom, and they were working on being respectful, so that SEL curriculum is in full force, and they informed me that there are 31 days left until they are kindergarten.
Oh, so exciting.
Very excited about that.
All right, thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.
Not
Thanks,
this
Kelly.
one.
Yeah, not a good time. They have one of those countdown rings.
Yeah, big deal, it's a big deal.
Next is personnel, and this is a first read, so I'll turn it over to Dr. Miller.
Thank you, Ms. Mattress.
Okay, thank you. So tonight, for your first read, we have some resignations of certified staff of an assistant director for counseling, student equity, and wellness, an English teacher, and a teaching assistant. And in our classified side, resignation of a teacher aide. We have the appointments of a cleaner, and then appointments of some per diem employees of 3 long-term substitutes, a monitor, an Eagles Care lead teacher, and a contract substitute. And then recommendation for appointment for contact teachers for the 24-25 school year of our K-6 counseling contact teacher, World Language 7-8, Social Studies 7-8, English 9-12, Science 9-12, and a skills coach.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Kramer? Again, this is a first read, and we have 3 weeks until approval. So if anything comes up, please reach out to Dr. Johnson. That brings us to new business, and item number 1 is policy review, general revisions. And this is also a first read of policy 6190. Dr. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mattress. So Ms. Kramer did a lot of legwork to pull this together. We have some recommended revisions. Ms. Kramer, would you like to?
Yeah, so this is really a revised policy from a policy that was just approved within the last few months. And so the recommended changes are minor, but they're really, the recommendations come that are really in response to the Department of Labor giving some updated resources and guidance to the Workplace Violence and Prevention Program. So some of the revisions include highlighting really the existence of the District Workplace Violence Prevention Program earlier, so that it puts that out in the forefront, emphasizing that the district and the employee must provide for employee participation in that District Workplace Violence Prevention Program, clarifying the procedure for reporting and adding language to indicate that retraining is required anytime there's a significant change in that program. And then the final one is just clarifying how the district's workplace violence prevention program may be obtained. So some minor revisions, but connected to new guidance and updates.
Did you have a question?
I just clarifying question, and I know we've gone over this before. The blue is new, the red's obviously strike through. What was the green again?
So the green were specific things that we had to add that are specific to our district.
So the stuff that is in green, I'll say strike through.
Yeah.
Was our district stuff that we're updating with the new guidance from the Department of Labor. Okay, I know the red and the blue one, the green threw me for a loop today. Need a little like
Yeah.
Right.
chart down in the corner. I know they all mean something and we don't get green a lot, so that's why I asked that question. Thank you.
She was just feeling different with the font.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Mrs. Kramer? Excellent. So as we mentioned, this is a first read. So if anything comes up, please reach out to Dr. Johnson. Next is our first motion of the meeting. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved, the Board of Education member Melissa Border be authorized to attend the NISBA Leadership and Education event held in Albany, New York from July 19th through July 20th, 2024.
May I have a motion, please? Thank you. Mr. Bay, may I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Sullivan. So we have an opportunity for Ms. Boer to attend this NISBA event in Albany in July. And it is our board policy that board approves board members attending conferences. And so that is exactly what we're doing here. The link to the event is in the administrative section of board docs. It looks like it's going to be a good conference. Anything to add?
Nothing to add. Appreciate your willingness to attend and interest.
Yeah,
absolutely.
very interested, lots of great topics that I
Thanks for
look
taking
forward
the time.
to bring back to the board, so.
It's great, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any further questions, comments, or discussion on that?
Just think real quick, we had just also discussed that I think within this registration timeline, once the election is held, if any of the new members choose to attend, that they'll have that opportunity as well. So thank you for getting the ball rolling on this,
Yeah.
and hopefully we can extend this to them as well.
Yeah, it's a good point. We wanted to get Mrs. Boer locked in while we had the chance, and then we can gauge interest after the election.
Great, thank you.
All right, all those in favor? That is 6, I think you can vote, yeah. 6-0.
Okay, thank you.
If we all go to a conference, then no.
I know, like I was like, oh, what do I do?
It'd be weird if you voted no.
That brings us to the consent agenda. May I have the recommended resolution, please?
Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the West Irondequoit Central School District approves the consent agenda, which includes H2 through H5.
May I have a motion, please? Thank you, Mr. Connor. May I have a second? Second by Mrs. Boyd. Tonight's consent agenda includes the revised 2024-25 Board of Education meeting schedule, which is that one change in April to align us with the BOCES election and budget vote. Recommendations of the Committee on Special Education, surplus equipment, and surplus furniture. Are there any items on the consent agenda which a board member would like removed for separate discussion? Anything on the consent agenda a board member would like removed to have voted on separately? Any questions or comments on the consent agenda as a whole? There's not a single VCR on there, Jake.
Not this time. Next time.
All right, seeing none, all those in favor? That is 6-0. This is listed. And that brings us to future meetings. What do we have coming up?
Meet the Candidates Night is Monday, the 13th at 6:30 at the IHS Campus Center. We have the annual meeting, May 21st, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. at the St. Paul Fire Department, 433 Cooper Road. And then we have a business meeting and the public hearing on the Code of Conduct on Thursday, May 30th at 7 p.m. here at District Office.
Thank you very much. Next is executive session. Is there a reason to go into executive session tonight?
Yes, there is, to discuss the employment history of a particular person or persons.
Well, then may I have a motion to move into executive session? Mr. Bay, seconded by Mr. Connor. All those in favor? That is 6-0. Thank you very much, everyone, for a very brief and but yet productive meeting. We will take a short break and reconvene in executive session.